case that includes presidential candidate now has announced Senator Tim Scott. Senator Scott grew up in a poor, in a single-parent household in South Carolina in the 60s and 70s. He nearly failed out of high school. You got to read his life story. It's amazing. Before finally turning his life around, graduating from high school, graduating from college, starting a successful business, then becoming a U.S. senator. But according to, let's see, that genius, joyless Behar over at that hard-hitting news show, The View on ABC, and the other ultra-privileged ladies of The View, Senator Scott, now, this is coming from a white American woman. Senator Scott, just like Clarence Thomas, does not understand racism or personal hardship. She's lecturing him. Watch.
And he's one of these guys who, he's like Clarence Thomas, black Republican who believes in pulling yourself by your bootstraps, rather than, to me, understanding the systemic racism that African Americans face in this country and other minorities. He doesn't get it, neither does Clarence.
Right.
And that's why they're Republicans.
One of the issues that Tim Scott has is that he seems to think because I made it, everyone can make it, ignoring, again, the fact that he is the exception and not the rule. And until he is the rule, then he can stop talking about systemic racism.
Clarence Thomas syndrome.
But I do think that he...
Oh, Lordy. Xenophobia, the bootstrap lie, displaying black people, and this quote of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., three of his party's favorite pastimes.
I love New York liberal elitist white women lecturing African-American men about their lives. It's pretty unbelievable. Anyway, earlier tonight, I sat down with Senator Scott, gave him an opportunity to respond to all that. Let's take a look. And joining us now is GOP presidential candidate, the great senator from South Carolina, Tim Scott is with us. Senator, welcome back. Great to have you, as always.
Thanks, John. It's always good to be on your show. Thank God for you.
All right, let's talk a little bit. I mean, this is a big decision. You're running for president. You come in, you're not at the top of the field. You spend a lot of time thinking, praying, contemplating this move. Tell us what tipped you over.
Thinking about the fact that I'm uniquely qualified to attack the radical left's approach to victimhood. The culture of victimhood and the narcotic of despair is spreading like a cancer throughout this nation. My life disproves their lies. Having come from a broken home and having broken pieces made whole, because America is the land of opportunity, not oppression. I want to make sure that every single child across this nation, in the poorest zip codes, from the top of the food chain to the bottom, have a chance to live their American dream. That means stepping up to the plate and providing hope, opportunity, and protecting the America that made me possible.
Senator, one thing that really, really angers me, annoys me, frustrates me, and this happens in every election cycle, Republicans are called racist and sexist and misogynist and homophobic and xenophobic and Islamophobic and now transphobic, et cetera. They want dirty air and water. I watched the comments. There seems to be two groups now that exist in America where you can say anything you want about these groups with no consequences at all in the very woke world we live in. Whoopi Goldberg saying that you have Clarence Thomas syndrome, accusing you of using a racial dog whistle. I found it really insulting. I call her joyless because she seems to have no joy. Joy Behar. He's one of these guys like Clarence Thomas, black Republican, who believes in pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, rather than understanding the systemic racism that African Americans face in the country and other minorities. He doesn't get it. Neither does Clarence. And I'm like, okay, you're going to get lectured on what it's like to be an African American from a white liberal on the hard-hitting news show, The View. I find beyond insulting. Why is it open season on Christians and conservative black Americans?
I believe, Sean, that the truth of my life, my experience coming from the wrong side of the tracks, and seeing that the opportunities available for every single one of us, that is hard for them to swallow. The truth of the matter is that their comments are offensive, they are dangerous, and they're disgusting. Let me explain why. Why are they dangerous? When you tell young African-American kids that there's no chance to make it to the top unless you're the exception, that is a lie from the pit of hell. It's dangerous because kids today, They actually live down to the lowest level of expectations of their leaders. We need to tell kids the truth, that in America, you can go as high as your character, your talent, and your grit will take you. If you want to live the American dream, work hard, put in the time, and all things are possible. We are Americans. Anything other than that is a lie. And here's why it is offensive. To look around that news show, two African-American females sitting on that stage, multimillionaires, telling the rest of us that you can't make it in America unless you're the exception. I'm sorry, yesterday's exception is today's rule. All things are possible in today's America.
You know, I look at the problems we're facing, and what frustrates me, Senator, is that all these problems we're facing were preventable, and they're all fixable. We can fix our border. We know how to secure the border. We can have law and order. We can fund the police and get rid of no-bail laws that are a disaster. We can fix the issue of energy prices by becoming, again, energy independent. I look at our foreign policy. I see China is on the march. They're aligning with Russia and Iran. I call it a new axis of evil. These, to me, are basics and fundamentals. Talk about the vision that you have. What are your top priorities? How do you fix these things? How do we turn this around? Because I can't name a single thing that I can point to that I would say Joe Biden's been successful at.
Well, because Joe Biden is weak, even though the American people are strong. If you want to fix the border, Sean, it's a simple concept. We have to make sure that we build a wall. We use the latest technology to surveil our border to stop fentanyl from coming across and killing 70,000 Americans in a single year. We know two things are true. Fentanyl, the precursors come from China into Mexican labs, and finally brought across with the Mexican cartels. The cartels must cease to exist to save American lives. We need to do everything necessary. The other major objective we have to have is to see China for who they are. They are our adversaries, treating them like